also like to say that we have made, I know, at least one significant payment, and here it is 100 days after the event, and they say they already have a judgment. Kelly, that just shows the bad nature the waterfront. One is $25,000 for busing costs, $4,000 for parking patrol. There's the other expenses of the golf carts. Altogether, we're looking at a $40,000 savings for expenses that we've already paid in full that we won't have at Waterfront Park, and those expenses can be directed elsewhere. Those revenues and expenses can be directed elsewhere.
Appreciate that. That makes sense. Other questions? Thank you. Well, Commissioner, have you got some thoughts about how you'd like to proceed here? Thanks very much. Thank you.
Well, I supported the decision of Parks to deny the permit because it seemed very obvious in the record that the permit application conditions were not met for the past event. So this is a separate action to decide whether to uphold the appeal. The problem that I've heard identified today is the inability and unwillingness of the permittees to deal with non-compliance of the permit conditions this past year. I'm hearing some new willingness to completely ban the use of marijuana, to have everyone searched, to put up fences, to have security, to do a lot of other things, including there, as you suggested, perhaps putting up a bond to make sure that all these fences are paid for ahead of time. That to me seems to be a separate application rather than a addition. So we have two choices here. We can either continue the hearing and keep this application viable, or we could uphold the appeal. And I'm just looking at the city attorney, is Harry's.
Maybe city attorney and park staff come up and help. This is, I think this may be that is a council hearing on the denial of a permit for the use of the park. So bear with us while we try to figure out our own procedural rules here on horseback. Also, I think it should be noted that the Parks Bureau's inclination is to approve permits, and they try to do that. So that's the other reason why this is unusual. They're not usually in the business of saying no. It's usually what about this instead. So I think you're hearing some interest on the council in what other scenario might be possible if you think there is one. But then there's also the question of how should you proceed. Separate questions.
Well, how you proceed is, of course, entirely discretionary with the council as to whether you continue the hearing. If you feel that you heard sufficient evidence and that the appellant had a substantial opportunity to make its case, and you don't think that there's a need to continue the hearing, then you're perfectly justified in saying you're not going to do that. If you want to hear more, you're perfectly justified in continuing the hearing. And with respect to the question about future permits, there is nothing that prohibits the denial of a permit here, or the holding of the denial of a permit is not prejudiced in any way to the applicant or that applies to the permit. Part of Sean can tell you what the current schedule is or what's available at this point. Waterfront Park, as the mayor pointed out, Waterfront Park was redeveloped in order to accommodate large festivals, but we're limited to half a dozen or so a year that it can accommodate. I don't know what the schedule would allow for at this late point in the process. But certainly they can come back and apply for another permit.
So what's the situation with respect to Waterfront Park? Is there a date available that this event could be held there if council were either to grant this appeal or if they were to apply for a different date?
I'm pretty sure that the date and dates in question that were available for the request for proposal, I believe the date is actually taken. I'll turn back to that it is taken already by Dragon Boats. Right? That's what I thought. Dragon Boats, a very long-standing event that's worked very well down to a water.
Well, that happens every year, so I would assume that they.
It happens every year, but they wanted to change their time so they could have a larger presence in the park.
So is there another date available if the council were to grant the appeal, or if they were to apply for a different date?
August 25th, 6th, 7th.
Not under current schedule.
Not under current schedule. We have a very tight schedule where we try to leave time in between events, so there's time for recovery. So at the moment, those dates that we put out for proposal have all been taken.
Well, I guess under those circumstances, I'm inclined to continue the hearing and see what possibilities there are, because if there's only one option before the council, then which is to deny the permit, then okay, I understand that. I'm not sure if that's where I would want to go, but I guess I would like to understand what other options might be available. Here's what I'm thinking. We don't have to be quite as constrained as we would be in land. It sounds to me like there have been some serious problems with this event. I hear that. I understand what the police bureaus have to say and what you have to say. I also know from unplanned experience in my office in managing a street festival this summer. Namely, we ended up managing the last Thursday event, sort of against our own intentions, but we ended up doing that. The community has a hunger to get together in these kinds of events, and it's both a community obligation to try to accommodate them and a public safety problem that has to be managed every time we have a crowd. We set Waterfront Park up for this kind of event, and by whatever trail they ended up at, Selwood Park or Kelly Point Park, their idea, our idea, frankly, I don't think they were good ideas. Just trying to find trying to accommodate 50,000 people in any of those places seems like a pretty sketchy proposition, no matter who's managing. So if this event is manageable at all, it seems to me that the place it ought to take place is Waterfront Park. It's pretty clear to me that this set of organizers is capable of meeting our standards, with all due respect to your earnest presentation here today. But if we're going to have this kind of event where 50,000 plus people show up, then we want it on the transit system, and we want it where the turf can get beat up again. So that's why it troubles me that the council's in a position here where if we were to grant the appeal, they may not have a place to go. So that's why I would be inclined to continue this and ask the Parks Bureau to at least look at the question of, if not no, then what?
Yeah.
If the answer is there's no other possibility but no, then that's unfortunate. So,
The challenge though is that the permit the application is for a date that's now been given to somebody else.
right.
And that they haven't addressed the fact that the 2013 security plan was not held to. It didn't have an alcohol, cannabis, drug-free event. It didn't hire the required number of certified staff. So
I think one of the decisions that the council may want to make in this regard is precisely the issue that the mayor just highlighted on, and I think Commissioner Fritz is commenting on, which is whether, notwithstanding their professed interest in working something out with the permit center, they're capable and actually willing and able to make that happen on the ground. What I believe the park experience is they haven't been able to do that in the 10 years that they've had this event. They were in Waterfront Park before. We had a prior incident in 2006, I believe it was, when they erected a medical marijuana tent. After having been expressly told they could not do so because even medical marijuana cannot be smoked in public. It's against state law to do that. And so, in a public place. And so they recognized that they were not allowed to do that. They did it anyway, and Mr. Stanford is on record as saying he did it knowing he wasn't allowed to do it. So the Parks Bureau has some concern about whether, notwithstanding what they're saying about their willingness to comply, and as the commissioner noted, their existing security plan specified, and the permit specified in numerous places, that there was going to be no alcohol and no marijuana. It was demonstrated to be prevalent at the event, whether they can and will, in fact, make that happen on the ground. And you all can decide whether you think that can change in the future or not.
So Mayor, my thought is that the park staff is correct in looking at the criteria for why a permit should be denied. They can then come forward with a plan for proper security, a plan to make sure that there's no use of marijuana at all. And we can then evaluate that.
It seems to be the cleanest way of doing it as well.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that scenario, and I guess what I would ask of you, Parks Bureau staff, is that if we're going to do that and at least open a negotiation about holding the event in Waterfront Park, that you make a date available. I mean, there's no point in having a negotiation about something that couldn't happen.
Well, it's subject to what we've already promised. We try to keep our promises. So we've already got contracts, so it'll have to be on a date that we don't already have.
What you'll have to do is go outside your policy.
I don't understand. It's crazy. It's dollars. We have seen people for long to get rooms here in Hempstalk. Long people actually benefited because of our event, and you don't want the money. Why? I don't understand why. And if you don't, I'd ask you on the field for you to resign. I really think we should.
Coordinators for Hempstalk when the event actually goes off. I work with FarrOut and Stanford and Bill, helping make sure the event happens. I deal directly with security. This year, I can tell you that I honestly removed 3 vendors because they were illegally selling medicated food. I removed 3 vendors. I also removed 27 people because they were illegally selling drugs. I removed a vendor because I caught them trying to give drugs to a minor. I stopped this. I removed the minor from the event, removed all of the marijuana, and then had the vendor removed from the property. The pictures that the city of Portland showed you of the garbage and the dumpster heaping over and the garbage sitting next to it, that wasn't garbage that was sitting next to it. Those were all nickels. Those were all recyclable bottles that we were giving to the homeless that had helped and done some volunteer work for us to try to, give them something to eat. That was all money. I mean, that wasn't garbage. That was plastic recyclable bottles and cans. We were trying to we were trying to separate all out, all of the recyclable stuff and everything like that, and make sure that everything was, appropriate when it was just garbage that was being picked up. We worked extremely diligently with the police department this year to, one of their main concerns for the event this last year was that, we had a free, clear path for people to get in and out for emergency vehicles and stuff like that. We sectioned off an entire half of the road just for emergency access into the park. We had a clear pathway all the way into the park. We contracted this year with AMR to always have an ambulance on site. Never ended up using them, not once.
May I ask Mr. Hale that if you go to any park that has 20,000 plus people in it, there's going to be damage to the park. Look at the Rose Festival every year, but we don't shut it down because we have to reseed every year. So anytime you get that amount of use of something, you're going to have use damage. And we do, if I remember right, pay a permit to cover that.
Security was never instructed ever to turn a blind eye to any sort of illegal activity. They, in fact, if security at any time saw any sort of medibles or anything of that nature, they were instructed to remove them. Okay, we've had problems in years past with things that we've noticed, may have not been seen by others, but things that we've noticed in years past and address those issues personally by trying to ensure the fact that these certain types of things weren't anywhere near or around an event. because they could cause problems. We worked very diligently this year with all the extra security staff and stuff like that to ensure that, everybody would be safe and have a good time.
My name is William Stovall, and I am an independent professional wrestler here in the state of Oregon. I've been wrestling for 14 years. Unlike these guys, this is my first year to go to Hempstalk. I put on a wrestling show. 4 to 6 of the police officers stood there by my ring on their ATVs and watched us for 4 to 6 hours. So I don't understand the whole cop security thing. And like he was saying, you go to any park in the state of Washington or Oregon or Washington, and I guarantee there's right over here, Park Paranoia, right across the street from the police station. There are guys over there slamming dope. Anybody know anything about that? That's all I really have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
The next three are Paul Armstrong, Nikki Gates, and Catherine Mitchell. And they'll be followed by Christopher Rankinson, Jordy Jimenez, and Kyle.
Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon. Good
Afternoon.
My name is Paul Armstrong. Been volunteered at Hempstalk since the very beginning. You said the security. If anybody, especially the stage crew, if anybody on the stage crew sees anything backstage or anything going wrong, we go to security, or there's a security guy right over there. We'll go to him. They deal with it. But we don't have very many problems that we see in our event. It's, of course, you get a zillion people around anywhere, it's going to be some people who act stupid because that's what they do. But the average person acts right. We keep everybody in check. We've been trying to do this most diligently as we can. Like in a big area, like you said, Kelly Queen Park, that's almost impossible to really do. The main event area that the event is carried in is pretty secure. But outside that event, that's like trying to bring back the dial telephone. That's not good. But basically, the whole event is pretty secure. As far as minors, who's a minor, who's not? You can't line up everybody and search them. Somebody tried that 40 years ago, didn't work out too well for them either. So you just can't line up everybody and search folks, because we don't line up everybody and search them at the Blues Festival. At the Blues Festival, we don't line folks up and search them. So we have to quit searching people, and people are adults now. We have to be treated like adults. When I was a child, my parents told me what to do. And now that I'm 60 years old, I don't need somebody else telling me what to do too. I think I have enough sense to make my own decision, right from wrong. Gotta get off the PC wagon.
Hi, my name is Nikki Gates, and I am the Hempstalk Volunteer Coordinator and also the Hospitality Manager for Hempstalk, and I have been for some years now. I am a mother and a grandmother and also a patient myself in the OMNP community. I would like to address the situation about children being at this event. My family is very proud of what I do, very proud of everything I do as far as volunteering goes. So I have an abundance amount of people that support me in general. Some of those may be children. My child has more risk, and I don't know if you fellas or you ladies know this, of going in my medicine cabinet and ODing on my aspirin than he does having marijuana in the air. So just so you know. So I just wanted to point that out. And being that I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I'm part of this again, my family does come to it. And they are not consumers. But I do not want my daughter to put down my grandchild out of her arms because someone needs to check her bag. I think that is ridiculous, and I think it's breaking a lot of our mental laws, and I think we need to be real careful with that. We are HEPA, and we have that law that protects us as patients. So we need to be very careful on how we're checking and we're checking out these OMNP events. Thank you very much for your time.
I'm Catherine Mitchell, and I just wanted to say that that was my first Hempstalk, and I've been to Gay Pride a couple of times, and I've lived here for 5 years, and I've seen alcohol play many fights, and I don't even want to go to Gay Pride because it is too loud and crazy, but I know here with Hempstalk it's going to be chill, relaxed, because that's how the feel is, and that's what I got